Welcome back to another torch review. This is the XT12S from Klarus, and this was sent in via the Nines B&T, who have supplied some of my other Klarus review samples. So we're going to run through some of the basics on this. You can see we have an output of 1600 lumens, a quoted range of 402 meters. Note the very high candela, so we're expecting a tight tactical beam on this. Also features the magnetic charging and dual switches, and on the back I run through some of the features and spec. We have 4 power levels, 2 strobe modes, we have the 2 switches, an intelligent temperature control for the output as well. Get a high capacity battery included with this. Run through some of the extras. All of those are included in the holster, which is shown here. You have the magnetic charging cable. Now the inside of the holster has a waterproof layer as well, neoprene padding, and the cable length on the magnetic charging cable is 100 centimeters or a meter. This is a flat style cable with a velcro strap. Just snaps into place on the side of the torch. Gold plated contacts on those. Seems to be pretty secure. There's advantages and disadvantages to that system. It seems to be one of the more common ones that Klarus are doing. We've got the wrist strap that's supplied with a low profile adjuster and a spare O-ring. This is an extra bonus item, a mini USB LED light. Now looking at the holster in a bit more detail, we have a velcro patch on the back and a belt loop, a plastic D-ring, velcro fastening on the front. This has neoprene padding around it, so to give a bit of protection to the torch, and as per usual with Klarus, the holster quality is very good. These are usually custom made for the torches. Looking at the design of the torch, we can see that magnetic charging point. I've put the specs on the screen for you. This is a more compact version of the XT12 GT. Now I haven't used that torch myself, but the design is similar to other Klarus ones that I've looked at. You have the tactical ring as well on this one, although it doesn't lock in place. Head design is very similar to the other ones, but you have a tripod screw thread too. Looking at the LED, XPH35 high D4 with a smooth reflector. It's quite a deep reflector as well, and you can remove the stainless steel bezel. Klarus do some add-ons for this, including a more aggressive bezel that you can get. You can also get weapon mounts, and there is a tail switch with a remote on it as well. Those are extra items. Apart from the fact that the tactical ring doesn't lock off, and I kind of like that myself, the design is very similar to the other Klaruses that I've used. You have the dual switch, silicone covering on the main switch, and the paddle switch. Well, they seem to have modified the design on this so it's easier to tail or base stand. So we'll just unscrew that, have a look at the battery, take the protector off. This is rated to 3600 milliamps hour. So that's the highest capacity cell that you can get for a 18650. You note we've got a spring inside and on the cap, so you shouldn't get any movement, and it works just fine with unprotected cells. Notice that we've got a inner lip as well. There's 2 tubes on this. That's because of the 2 switches that we have on the base cap. Square cut threads. Everything's top quality as you would expect from Klarus. This is a premium torch. If you want, you can also take off the tactical ring. I tend to leave it on, and the clip is very strong. It's a short clip. You can remove it, but you won't have any problems with this coming off of any items. Now look at the user manual. Very similar in terms of the design. Is basically the same as the UI on the XT2CR that I recently looked at. We have the same tactical setting and outdoor setting, but the design of the torch is different throw, different beam pattern off of this. We also had a micro USB on that, and on this particular one we have the magnetic charging. Runs through all the information here, so you can pause that if you want to have a look. We've got the capacity indicator on the battery too. The usual Klarus features, and many of them are quite good. As far as the magnetic charging goes, this seems pretty secure. Even shaking it doesn't knock it off. The disadvantage is it's a proprietary connection, so if you lose the cable you're going to have to hunt for another one. On the plus side, it should avoid any port wear like micro USB. And when you power it on, you get the power indicator come up briefly for a few seconds. We're in the tactical setting. We have 3 power levels, instant access to turbo, and you can cycle through the power settings. Momentary on, exactly the same as the XT2CR. Onto the tactical settings, we have a strobe on the paddle switch and a momentary on again. Now if you want to keep that strobe on, just push and hold on the paddle switch. I quite like the UI. Personally, I would leave it in the normal setting where you have the 4 power levels. That's my own personal take, but you have an option there. And switching modes does take quite a while. You have to push the side switch or paddle switch in for around 10 seconds, which can be a little bit annoying because if you're in that mode where the strobe goes off, you'll have to put up with that. Then the red and green flashes, and then just press the main switch to change over the settings. Now on the outdoor settings, this is the one I usually use. We have 4 power levels instead of the 3 on the tactical. You still have your momentary on function, but you also have access to the low mode. You can just keep pushing that in if you still want to use the low. That's the mode I'd use, but nice to have a choice. If you want to get into the SOS on the outdoor setting, once it's powered on, just push the side paddle in and hold it in for a few seconds, and that will take you directly to the SOS. So you still have 2 strobe modes regardless of which setting that you're in. Personally, I'm going to stick with that one with the 4 power levels, but if you're in sort of a dodgy area or something like that, you might find that the instant access to the rapid firing strobe mode would be quite useful. Also easy to see if you've left the torch on thanks to the crenulated bezel. And it's fairly stable on a tail or base stand. That's an improvement with the recent models over the older ones which didn't really stand. Now the 4 power level indicators, just showing you that on the screen. At least they've made use of the magnetic charging port around it. And the battery came in at just over the 3,500 milliamp hours. Highest you can get for a 18650 onto the charging, 850 milliamps. You can see you have the indicators for the charging status, which red turns to green when it's finished. So I tested the termination and that was spot on, 4.19 volts, no problems at all with this. You can also use unprotected cells, water resistance test, no problems at all. I'm going to do some beam shots now and we'll come back with some thoughts and a conclusion at the end. As far as the beam pattern goes on the Klarus, this is pure tactical. You have that tight hot spot in the middle, but you also have a decent bit of spill at the higher power levels too. So this is going to have a nice range on it, and that's confirmed by using it out in the field, and it's quite different to the Olight Warrior that I looked at and the XT2CR. Both of those torches had what I'd call more of an EDC type beam, and with this model you get the tactical ring too, which some people like. Gives you a bit more grip, particularly with access to the two switches on the base or tail cap. Couple of points for me: would like a moonlight mode, does take a while to switch between the settings, and also would prefer if you didn't have any PWM, but you can't see that with your eyes, it just shows up on the camera, so perhaps not a big issue for most people. But a nice torch, they've done a good job on this particular one, but let me know what your thoughts are, particularly with the magnetic charging and some of the other features, and I will catch up with you in my next video review very shortly.